Of all the things that January 6th was, it was definitely not a violent terrorist attack. It wasn't an insurrection.
When are they going to admit there was no insurrection? Never. So FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, according to government documents.
Tucker Carlson, who produced an entire special along with all of that, arguing there never actually was an insurrection on January 6th, that it was actually just a false flag, now has access to all of the raw security footage from the Capitol that day. Some 44,000 hours of tape, he says, given to him by the new Republican Speaker of the House. Now NBC News and other outlets are writing to Speaker Kevin McCarthy, saying that if you're going to give it to him, Tucker Carlson, in what you call the interest of transparency, give it to us too. Joining me now is NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake and New York Times political correspondent Jeremy Peters. So Kevin McCarthy so far not responding by not responding. But if he's making the argument that this is sunshine, the public has a right to see all this footage, why not give it to other news outlets so the entire public can see the entirety of this footage?
Well, Katie, it's one of the questions that I and other reporters have for the speaker. I just spent the last hour and a half outside his office trying to get that question answered. But over this entire recess over the last 2 weeks, both McCarthy and his staff have been impossible to pin down on this. The best we've gotten is one comment that McCarthy made to the New York Times saying that he was asked about these tapes and that he thinks it's, sunshine, transparency to get them out there. But as you say, it is impossible to square the idea that you're doing this for transparency's sake and to make this information only available to one news program, one program on one network with one very well-defined point of view about what happened that day. If you want to make all of this available more broadly, that's a different conversation, one McCarthy's so far been unwilling to have.
Again, this is not like he just gave it to Fox News. He gave it to Tucker Carlson, a very specific person on Fox News. And I just want to play a little bit of that documentary in quotes that I mentioned at the top, just to underscore who this person is that McCarthy gave that material.
False flags have happened in this country. One of which may have been January 6th.
His truth is marching on.
So, Jeremy, should we expect that now that he has all that surveillance footage that he's going to say, oh, wait, no, I was wrong, and here's all the evidence to prove otherwise, or that he might do something else with it?
I would not count on it. And I have to say, I find a number of things about McCarthy's choice curious, Katie. First is that McCarthy and Tucker Carlson don't exactly have the coziest of relationships. I mean, Tucker Carlson was somebody who was at least mildly encouraging the revolt against McCarthy that almost cost him his speakership. And I think what McCarthy's doing here is, playing to his base. That much should be obvious. I think people on both sides get criticized for talking to their bases too much. But in this case, I really think it's showing what an echo chamber of the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Lauren Boeberts that he feels responsible to, because does he really want to relitigate the events of January 6th? I mean, we saw what happened in the last midterm elections when democracy quite literally was on the ballot for a lot of voters. And guess what? They turned Republicans out. So I think, again, I don't know what they think they're going to find on these tapes. January 6th insurrection is playing euchre in the speaker's lobby. What could they possibly expect to find that's going to be exonerating or that will somehow kind of, wipe away this stain on our country's history? So why he's doing this, it's quite curious.
Yes, he's also fundraising off of it. He's got an email out. Patriot, you deserve the facts. I promised I would give you the truth regarding January 6th, and now I'm delivering. He's using it to get money, Garrett.
Yeah, Katie, absolutely. And I think the answer to Jeremy's question is this is part of the bargain that McCarthy had to make with his base. I mean, one of the first reactions I saw anywhere to this news that McCarthy had made these tapes available to Tucker Carlson was from Marjorie Taylor Greene on her Twitter account saying this is why she stood by Kevin McCarthy in the speakership fight. She was quickly echoed by Donald Trump Jr., saying that this was weeks in the making, a process to get this information out. There is a portion portion of the party that firmly does believe there's something nefarious about January 6th that isn't widely known. They want to push this stuff out here. As Jeremy pointed out, it has been a loser electorally, at least it was in the last midterm. But McCarthy is too far into this arrangement now to do anything but see it all the way through and put this information out there.
Jeremy, there's another Fox story out today, and this has to do with the Dominion lawsuit. Howie Kurtz over the weekend tweeted. He also commented on his show about how Fox said he wasn't allowed to cover the suit, even though he should. He's their media reporter. MoveOn.org is saying that they were not allowed to, or that Fox rejected a commercial that they had that showed how Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson really felt about the allegations that the election was stolen. What else are we expecting from this lawsuit?
So today is a pretty big day for this case. Around 5 o'clock, we expect to get more documents, Katie, that will show more of the internal communications going on behind the scenes at Fox News in the days and weeks after the election. And the big piece we're expecting is what Rupert Murdoch said in his deposition. This last batch of documents that we saw, Murdoch's deposition had not happened at the time they were written. So what we've seen in this last batch was Fox executives, hosts saying one thing on the air and another thing privately. And what they were saying privately was Sidney Powell is nuts. Rudy Giuliani will never practice law again. And I can't believe that our viewers believe this stuff. What Rupert Murdoch says about that will go a long way toward proving whether or not Dominion Voting Systems has a case for defamation. And they're suing Fox right now for $1.6 billion to that effect.
All right, so we'll watch out for that document dump to see what's in it and what potentially Rupert Murdoch was saying in his deposition. How concerned is Fox News internally? I mean, it seems like they'd be somewhat concerned if they're not letting Howie Kurtz talk about it.
This poses grave legal jeopardy and financial jeopardy. I mean, $1.6 billion is nothing to sneeze at, even for a company as financially liquid as Fox is. But more importantly, I think this case has the opportunity to deliver the kind of verdict and judgment on the big lie, on the corrosion of our democratic values that we saw over the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency, one that has eluded Trump's opponents through 2 impeachments, a special counsel, and numerous local and state investigations. If Fox News is held liable for defamation, for spreading and disseminating the big lie, which legal experts tell me is a very real possibility because it's a very strong case, then you would finally have this kind of holding to account of the Trump world that you haven't seen before.
Jeremy Peters, Garrett Haake, gentlemen, thank you very much. And on the subject of disinformation, NBC News has an exclusive report on what's happening in Georgia. Amateur voter fraud hunters challenged 92,000 Georgia voter registrations last year using voter rolls, public records, door-to-door canvassing, and hours of their own time to ferret out voter fraud. That didn't exist.